Get this hearing going. Thank you, Representative Fritz. If you could lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, I'd be much obliged. Right there.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If the members could introduce themselves, starting from my left.
Hi, everyone. Good morning. Mike Cabell, 117th District, Luzerne County.
And good morning, friends. I'm Jonathan Fritz, proudly representing the 111th Legislative District comprising Wayne and Susquehanna counties.
Good morning. I'm Representative Craig Williams from the 160th District, which is Delaware and Chester counties outside of Philadelphia.
Good morning. Joe Adams, 139th District, which is where we are right now, and proud graduate of Wallen-Paul Peck High School. Thank you.
Josh Kale, Beaver, Washington County.
David Rowe, Union, Snyder, Juniata, and Mifflin counties.
Tina Pickett, Bradford and Wyoming County.
Morning, Jim Rigby, 71st District, Cambria, and Somerset counties.
And online, we also have Representative Struzzi and Representative Twardzik. And for those that are online, you know the drill. Keep your stuff muted, and if you have a question, just do the little function that shows a hand on your screen, and I will be notified, and we'll get to your question. First off, I'd like to say thank you to you, Joe, Representative Adams. You did a fantastic job of organizing it, of showing us your area, and also thank you to Wallen-Paul Peck. I think I said that right. Yeah, all right. Area High School. You guys have been wonderful hosts. I'm looking forward to hearing from y'all. And without further ado, Joe, I'd like to hand you the floor so you can give some brief opening remarks.
Thank you. Thanks, Josh. Appreciate that. We're here today for a really important issue for our 139th District, but an issue that's statewide, and that is career readiness, job availability, life-sustaining wages, things like that. And there are 67 counties in the state of Pennsylvania, and 2 counties, Wayne and Pike, are the only 2 that do not have an integrated career tech and vocational training center. The 4 schools who are all here represented are high-performing schools and have very supportive administrations, boards, and communities, and it is something that we're really in need of in our area, and that was one of the driving forces for having this today. And Josh Kale, our policy chairman, has been around the state having hearings about this going forward, and we are really excited and very proud to be able to participate in the hearing, and very honored that Josh and the policy committee have come here. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Representative Adams, and it's always a pleasure to come up here to the great Northeast. Actually, my executive director is from Pike County, so this area, and it's amazing. The state is very large. I've gotten to know the state pretty well over the last year or so, and I can't help but note that every time I come to northeastern Pennsylvania, it reminds me of home. And home is on the exact opposite side of the state, southwestern Pennsylvania. My district is on the border of Ohio and West Virginia, and I just feel like I'm at home here, similar industries, similar people, a similar landscape. So Joe is Representative Adams is exactly correct. Career and technical work, workforce development, we go around the state, we talk about a lot of different issues. This issue comes up in every area of life in Pennsylvania. Every area of our economy, this issue comes up. It is absolutely critical that we talk about this issue, that we find solutions to this issue, because really it's an educational issue. And we need to make sure that our kids are educated in relevant industries, and they're educated in ways that they can be productive going forward in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. So today we were going to have 2 panels. We kind of had to do an audible. We had a good adjustment. We're just going to have 1 panel now. all at once. And our first panel, or the only panel now, the first testifier will be Mary Beth Wood, followed by Joanne Hudak and Keith Ganuski. Got it, Ganuski. I'm usually a little shaky on pronouncing of names. So the floor is yours, Ms. Wood, and if you keep it 3 to 5 minutes, then afterwards we will ask questions and we'll go from there.
Thank you, Chairman Kale. Representative Adams, Representative Fritz, members of the Policy Committee, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for inviting me to make comments on the critical issue of career and technical education, adult training, and workforce development. I testify today as a member of the economic development community and a person deeply involved in workforce development in Wayne County. Just as we need enabling infrastructure to grow our communities, such as roadways, utilities, and industrial sites, we need educational infrastructure to address the people side of economic development. Job creation is a measure of success in economic development. Jobs are filled by people. In Wayne County, we take the approach that workforce development is economic development. In 2005, Wayne Economic Development Corporation, or WEDCO, spearheaded the formation of Workforce Wayne, now known as the Wayne Pike Workforce Alliance, a state-designated community education council. At that time, WEDCO had started the development of the Sterling Business and Technology Park, which is projected to create 1,200 jobs at full build-out. Wayne County had no chartered career link, no career and technical center, and no community college. In fact, little way to connect education to business and economic growth activities. There was an immediate recognition that the lack of a CTC was a disadvantage to our students, businesses, and economic development efforts. Nearly 20 years later, a brick-and-mortar CTC has still not been realized, although significant progress has been made in building relationships with our businesses and educational institutions. Discussion on career and technical education is timely. The unemployment rate for Wayne County, Pennsylvania, and the nation stands at 3.5%, essentially full employment. This is a concern when we consider the development pressures brought on by the response to the pandemic. As the Pennsylvania Broadband Development Authority spearheads the distribution of BEAD funds, there is an acknowledged shortage of consultants and fiber engineering firms to design and expand networks. A workforce and talent management study by the Pennsylvania National Infrastructure Advisory Council, which examines the challenges facing the critical infrastructure workforce as it relates to the IIJA, recommends reshaping cultural perceptions of technical careers. A recent housing assessment by Wayne County shows the county has a significant housing shortage, a situation felt throughout the region. Our construction companies and contractors need trained employees to meet their current retention needs and to respond to the needs within our society. Yet Wayne and Pike are not able to adequately contribute due to a lack of a CTC. In preparation for this hearing, I spoke with two of our premier manufacturers, Sutphen East Corporation and Boyce Products Limited. Sutphen East Corporation is an affiliate of Sutphen, the oldest continuously owned and operated fire apparatus manufacturer in the United States. Sutphen East specializes in pumpers and tankers, and their fire trucks are found throughout the nation. The company has 72 employees and recently expanded their Wayne County plant because of high sales volume. Boyce Product Limited employs 34 and is a custom contract furniture and fabrication company. They specialize in integrating technology with the highest level of craftsmanship. If you are watching a CNN news program, most likely the news set in the background was produced in Wayne County, Pennsylvania. Both manufacturers are seeking welders and metal fabricators, machine operators and finishers, occupations that are also on the Pocono County's high priority occupation list. Both companies advocate for CTC training. Student skill development and industry certifications are obvious advantages. Both, however, stress the importance of local education, not requiring an individual to leave his or her community to receive training. Wayne and Pike have industry profiles that are typical of the Pocono counties. That is higher employment in service areas such as healthcare and social assistance, retail trade, and accommodations and food service. Our Stourbridge Project Business Incubator and Sterling Business and Technology Park are economic development projects that are specifically built to alter our industry profile by attracting quality jobs in underrepresented industries, such as professional and technical services, manufacturing, and warehousing and transportation. For example, the Commonwealth as a whole averages 6.7% of its employment in the professional and technical services industry. No county within the 7-county NEPA Alliance region comes even close to that employment percentage. In fact, we average about 1/3 of the state's percentage. Yet as a region, the wage for this sector averages over $67,000, which is substantially higher than the average wage for all industries. Growth in this industry would be supported by a CTC. Likewise, the addition of 300 jobs in the manufacturing sector would raise Wayne County's employment percentage in that industry from 4.2% to 6%, much closer to the state's 9.7%. If wages also rose to match the region's average wage for manufacturing, over $30 million would be added to our economy just in wages alone. WEDCO has 4 projects in various stages within the Sterling Business and Technology Park that are projected to create over 300 jobs. As we move forward, we most certainly will work extensively with our workforce partners to identify and engage employees. It will be critical that we identify the skills necessary for these new employment opportunities and relate this to our educators. To achieve our economic development goals, we need people. From the time of Wayne County's peak employment in 2008, just prior to the Great Recession, through the pandemic, Wayne experienced a 12.5% decrease in our civilian labor force. Recent data published by the U.S. Economic Development Administration shows that all of Wayne County is distressed as it relates to prime age employment gap, those aged 25 to 54 who are not engaged in the labor force. Economic developers, educators, workforce developers, and government must work together to identify the social determinants of labor market participation, childcare, housing, recovery and reentry programs, and educational barriers. The fact that Wayne County has no CTC, no community college, and no 4-year degree granting institution affects all aspects of job creation, job attraction, business vitality, and personal growth and fulfillment. Today's discussion is extremely critical. It is timely. We ask all for your support in helping us to address our educational and workforce development challenges. Thank you.
Good morning, and Representative or Chairman Kale and all of the representatives we met today, thank you for allowing me to testify. My background is I'm a retired administrator with the Wallen-Paupack Area School District. This is my home. And while high school principal and assistant superintendent, I oversaw all the career and technical programs. I also am a founding member of Workforce Wayne, which is now the Wayne Pike Workforce Alliance. In 2005, I was a high school principal, and I thought I was doing a pretty good job. And then I got invited to a meeting in Honesdale. A bunch of people talking about how do we improve the workforce, how do we keep our kids here, our best and brightest, how do we do this? And they started throwing out a lot of acronyms, and they started talking about a lot of workforce things and economic development things, and I'm like, I don't know what they're talking about. And what I realized was, what a disconnect between education, workforce, and economic development. We as educators, in our training, I'm a former Spanish teacher, in our training, nowhere in our training do we learn anything about preparing kids for the future. That's as a teacher. As a principal, for my principal certification, nowhere in my training did I learn about my role in leading career readiness and preparing kids for the future. My superintendent letter, nowhere did I receive any training. The PIL program, which is our Act 45 required hours for school administrators, did begin to shine light on, building that sense of urgency that that you talked about as you across the Commonwealth with jobs and so on. So we have a disconnect. And what this region has done is break down those silos. Workforce Wayne, again, now the Alliance, is the entity that brought every school district in our region, our W's and Delaware Valley, to the table to talk about these issues. I couldn't be more proud of the work we've done over the last almost 2 decades. We have built a system for our counties, for our region. We have built strong career and technical programs in our classrooms, in our high schools. We have built career readiness programs K-12. We work together in this region. And we know that we have got to help to build these pipelines of young people into really life-sustaining, good jobs. However, we have issues. We know we have labor issues. We know we have shortages. You said anywhere you go in the Commonwealth, you're going to hear about that. You take the silver tsunami, which was predicted 20 years ago with all the baby boomers retiring. Well, that's hit us. Pandemic has hit us. I was telling Mary Beth earlier, what really an astounding number for me is the number of women who have left the workforce due to the lack of child care. Hundreds of thousands of child care workers were dislocated or let go during the pandemic. And so the rate of women participating in the workforce today is at the same rate as it was in the 1970s. That's not a good thing. And I'm an educator, so I can talk about this. We have education challenges. We've created a college for all mindset for our students. And unfortunately, when we talk about college for all, this is what we're talking about, 4 years for all kids. And the national rate for completion of college in 4 years, kids who go into a 4-year degree, is 33%. Kids are graduating in 6 years. So the national rate is around 56% of kids who start a 4-year program finish in 6 years. Pennsylvania fares a little bit better. We're around 65%. So we've created this mindset with good intentions that we want children to go to college. But unfortunately, we're really restricting, whether it's adults, whoever it is, and kids, that they need to go to a 4-year college. It's a rite of passage. Pennsylvania is a middle school skills state. That's when we talk about middle schools, these are the jobs that require education and training beyond high school, but not a 4-year degree. This is where your high priority occupations are. So think EMT certificate program, right? Think of all those jobs that are, again, associate's degrees, again, on-the-job training, et cetera. You need training, but not necessarily 4-year degree. So in Pennsylvania, right now, it's about 53% of the jobs are for middle skills. And these are highly skilled technical jobs. I'm vice chair of the local hospital, and I'm telling you, they have 64 departments, and the amount of skilled technicians they need to support, the docs is astounding. Think of the ratio 1-to-7. For every 1 advanced degree, you're going to need 2 bachelor degrees and 7 supporting degrees. That's the ratio we need to remember. So what we have now is we have created this mindset of go to college. Maybe I have an idea what I want to do. Figure out, oh yeah, I like this. I might transfer. I might get a different major, and then I graduate and hopefully get a job. The formula we need to have is where are the jobs, right? Where are the jobs? What are the skills? And what's the related education? And that's what we're doing in this county. Our schools and our system we work side by side with our workforce and economic development partners to give our kids high quality work-based learning experiences. Right now, about 20% of the kids in the country take career and tech ed. So we don't have enough career and tech ed programs. We all know that. But what we also know is that less than 20% of high school kids experience any impactful work-based learning. They might go to a career fair, or they might go to a job shadow, but it's not impacting their planning moving forward, right? And so we also know that most of you had a part-time job when you went to school, right, in high school. Everybody had a part-time job. Less than 17% of kids nationwide hold a part-time job when they're in high school now, because what they're doing is getting ready to go to college. I'm going to play on travel teams, nothing against travel teams. I'm going to take these extra courses to get into college. So again, the model that we've tried to build here is recognizing that we need to create pipelines of kids, children, young people, into the right education to get the right skills to build a robust and thriving workforce. And I have to say that, I'm retired, and I am just as invested as 2005 because this work is important. But we have done, I want to talk from the adult side right now. We have a lot of people in our community that need to up their skills, right? And maybe they're in very low-paying jobs, and they can't afford to really do what's right for their families. We have an impediment. We have the career. We are the Community Education Council of Pike and Wayne counties, the 9th in the state. And Representative Fritz, you were there at the table when we got that. We worked hard for that. We represent rural, underserved communities. And yet, when we have adults coming into our facility to ask us for help, I want to retool, I want to get my skills up, where do we send them? We do not have a training center. We do not have a facility. We're driving to Scranton. We're driving maybe over to Luzerne County. We do not have the facility. It really, truly is a barrier to our adult population. So what we think is what we know is we have built a system here over 20 years. We have relationships, partnerships. We've got good career readiness in our schools. We have wonderful career and technical programs. Again, they're bursting at the seams, yet we do not have a CTC. And if you know career and technical, we talked a little bit, Representative Rigby, about your area has a wonderful career and technical center. A career and technical center serves not only our high school kids, but it also helps our K-8 students get exposed to career and technical job education and making good decisions. But for our adult population, whether it's after 3 o'clock or whether it's attending class side by side with high school students, which we see out in Center County, we see in different parts of the state, it truly is a detriment to our community. So we've built it, we're just missing one piece, and that is our Career and Technical Center. Thank you.
Good morning, Representative Kale and all of the representatives. Thank you for coming to Wallenpaupack and listening to our story. When I say our story, this is not the Wallenpaupack story, this is the Wayne and Pike County story. And with that, I would just like to acknowledge the other superintendents that are here this evening, or this morning. Dr. Blom is here from Delaware Valley, Mr. Frigoletto from Wayne Highlands, and Dr. Barrett from Western Wayne. And I can tell you that my colleagues and I have been putting a tremendous amount of time into trying to come up with some of the answers to the questions and the concerns that have been addressed by the previous testimony. We're very passionate about career and tech education, and we're seeking more opportunities for our students. Plain and simple, as Representative Adams had mentioned, Wayne and Pike counties are the remaining 2 counties of the entire state. So 65 other counties have career and tech centers. Our counties do not. Fortunately for us, or the individuals that came before us, before me, including Dr. Hudak, were thinking about career and tech education. This is not a new idea for Wayne and Pike County. So much so that back in the 1970s, the state approved a CTC development for the 4 districts that I previously mentioned. So this is certainly something that is not new. It's something that we've been trying to work on for many years. Our high schools are comprehensive high schools, meaning that we carry a significant financial burden. We really have an option. We can either do the best we can and provide career and tech education for our students, or we simply do not provide anything. And the latter is not an option. So we have certainly done the best that we can. However, you can imagine that there is a tremendous burden to our local taxpayers. We just are not able to provide the amount of opportunities that we would like to our students as well. In addition to that, our participation in our CTE programs have grown. Unfortunately, when you think of, like the saying is, your grandfather's vocational school, that is not what we're talking about. Our career and tech ed programs, and when I say our, again, I'm referring to all of our districts and the CTE programs within those districts, are top notch. We have all students participating in them, from engineering and a number of the programs that we're going to mention. But 31% of our students at Wallenpaupack are participating in CTE programs, 31%. And we know with the expansion of additional programs, we can increase that dramatically. When you look at the current programs that we have, I'm certainly not going to read them all, but we're very proud of what we have. As Dr. Hudak mentioned, we work hard to try to bring opportunities to our students, but we know that there's opportunities and there's growth that's being left on the table that needs to be addressed. When you take a look at how a CTC could work based on the programs that we currently have, I'll use automotive. If you look at Delaware Valley, Wallenpaupack, and Western Wayne, we all have automotive programs. But because they're all kind of funneled into one program, they're not specialized. So in a CTC, we would be able to take that automotive program and break it out into a diesel mechanic program, an automotive program, and a small engine repair program. Okay, so kids, instead of being funneled into automotive, will be funneled back out into the specific topic or interest that they have, without, again, being funneled into the same program. One program I thought that I would mention is the Homeland Security that we just started a couple of years ago here at Wallenpaupack, and we call it Protective Services. This Protective Services addresses many needs, not only from a career standpoint, but from a local standpoint. I've been in the volunteer fire service for 33 years. I'm a nationally certified firefighter, and I see the lack of first responders that we have in our communities firsthand. As superintendent, I'm still rolling hose in the morning at 4 o'clock on a structure fire because we don't have many other individuals behind me to help. And so we recognize that this is a now problem, but it's also a future problem. We started the Protective Services program after a model from Octorara. And in 10th grade, our students participate in law enforcement experiences. They receive a number of certifications from searches, and then in 11th grade, the students are able to test for their EMT. They'll become actually certified EMTs in our community in 11th grade. In 12th grade, they have the opportunity to test for their Fire 1 and Fire 2. So we're talking about students that at no cost to them or their families will leave Wallenpaupack as certified EMTs, Firefighter 1, Firefighter 2, and can go become a professional emergency responder right out of school with no additional expense. It is something that we're certainly proud of. On the backside of this, as students are participating in those programs, as students here, it is a requirement that they join local organizations. So we have heard from our local fire companies, our local EMS companies, and they are thrilled. They serve on our occupational advisory committees. They are thrilled to have some young, interested students who are joining their program, even if it's for a couple of years. That's great. They'll take it. We're that critically low on first responders. They'll take the couple of years. And wherever those students land, whether they do this professionally or they do it as on the side kind of thing, they will be able to contribute to their community wherever they land. So we're very, very proud of that program. When you look at the justification for a new CTC, in addition to what we've mentioned, we certainly have building restrictions. I am hopeful that you will all be able to stay for our tour concluding the hearing today, where we'll take you on a tour of all of our CTE programs. And you will see that although we have great programs, we are confined space-wise, because you can't look at a classroom for a CTE program like you can in a traditional setting. It takes one classroom to teach English. It takes 4 classrooms to teach engineering. And so although we have programs and they're very successful and we have students participating in them, we simply just do not have the capacity to grow those programs to where they need to be. We don't have the capacity to add additional programs because, again, we have maxed out on the linear square footage of building space that we can have on our campus. And I think I also speak for the other districts as well when they are also feeling those confinements. The next part is, our district and our districts have worked collaboratively because we don't have the CTC. A few years ago, we started sharing students. So we said, what's the next best thing? What is a stopgap measure that we can put in place to promote our programs between the other districts while we move towards a CTC? And what we have is we have a number of individuals, a number of students who share, that go to those other schools to participate in the programs of the receiving school. The problem that creates, and it's a personal problem that I have experienced, is the fact that students have to choose to leave their home district and go to another school district for an all-day program. A CTC would allow a half-day program where students would be able to stay in their home district with their friends, sports programs, where their families are, where their relatives are, and be able to participate in those programs. Unfortunately, our kids have to choose. And I say that this is personal because before I'm a superintendent, I'm a dad. And my son wanted to be a fourth-generation firefighter. And in 9th grade, we had an awful conversation about leaving Honesdale and coming to Wallenpaupack. And he got the phone calls from his cousins saying, please, Seth, don't leave. But Seth also wanted to be a firefighter. Seth decided to come to Wallenpaupack and leave all of his friends at Honesdale. Our kids should not have to make that decision. That was a painful, painful conversation. And again, 65 other counties don't have to have those conversations. Our counties do. Very unfortunate. The other part I wanted to mention was adult education, which I know Joanne talked extensively about. And we're certainly working with colleges and business partners. We have business partners that will call us and say, we have a new tire machine that we would like to train some staff on, and you can train your students on. We would love to do that. We don't have the space in our automotive, as you will see, to take on those additional responsibilities. We would love to do that. That is truly a school business community partnership that we so desire. We have the players, we have the stakeholders, we have everything we need to bring this to fruition, except for that CTC. As we look for the plan, what is this going to look like, a Wayne Pike CTC? The first thing we need to do, is the CTC would be independent, and that would be outlined in a joint operating committee. I will say the only benefit about being the last ones to the CTE table is that we have a lot of great models to follow, right? Everybody's already figured it out. So, we would certainly have a JOC. We have in-kind support. A 2009 study showed a parcel of property that we have across the street behind our primary school. We have anywhere between 8 to 10 acres. Utilities are in place. Traffic studies have been done. It's sufficient room for future expansion. That is an option. It would be the intent of our 4 school districts to ensure that we centralize this CTC wherever it is. And the fact is that we need to look not just for Wayne and Pike counties for our students, but for our workforce. Where is our workforce going to travel? Wayne County goes very, very high, very north, and then we go also very, very south. We're covering a large area, and so we want to make it accessible to our communities. So wherever that lies, I know the districts are looking at some additional in-kind support. We would be looking at a new CTC, but also continuing some satellite campuses. Delaware Valley, for example, put a tremendous amount of investment into their CTE programs recently. We would not be looking at uprooting that and bringing that to, say, a main campus someplace. They have state-of-the-art facilities. They should use those state-of-the-art facilities. However, if there's a program, if there's a student who is interested in a program that they don't have, they would be able to come to the CTC. So this would be a shared, certainly shared responsibility, but accessibility from all school districts. A few of the programs that we've talked about adding, again, these are things that would not take a significant amount of change. They're right in front of us. But when you look at computer programming, it's not going away. We need it. We need more of it. It's a space issue for us. Aviation, right now we have 2 airplanes sitting outside. We have students who are receiving flight hours due to a flight simulator that you will see in one of our classrooms. We have 1 room for aviation. We need a hangar, to be perfectly honest with you, in order to store this equipment. Since we've started this aviation pathway it is right now, we're looking for state approval. People, I had no idea that were interested in aviation in our area have come out to lend support. Large corporations have called us saying, you know, we need kids. We will send you whatever you need. Do you need engines? Do you need parts? What do you need? We will give it to you at no cost. We want to accept that. We can't. We cannot accept that. Our introduction to aviation is maxed. It is absolutely maxed, and those are just with Wallenpaupack students right now. That's not even taking into consideration the other 3 districts when we truly become and formulate that CTC. In addition to the Delaware Valley keeping their program, Wayne Highlands and Honesdale High School, they have a tremendous ag program. In fact, we're sending a number of our students to their school this year to learn ag, and that's a 4-year program. They have a beautiful greenhouse, and again, we would not want to uproot that. That would be a satellite campus. And our high school here may or may not be a satellite campus. You'll see our culinary is state-of-the-art. Of course, if I were to offer Chef a new kitchen, I don't think she would say no. But really, our rehabilitation aid program is set up in a really opportune place next to the trainer's office, next to the football field and our track and things like that. So we may keep the satellite campus here, certainly at our high school. When you look at, you know, the size and the cost and what we need, and this is kind of our hiccup over the years in the planning that we've had. You know, we're looking at about a 70,000 square foot building at a cost of about $40 million, and that's the building and the, you know, all of the equipment that would go in to support those programs. $10 million for land acquisition and site prep. When you look at our buildings and other CTCs, you may find that they offer, you know, 24 programs, let's say 24 to 28 programs. You know, we would try to keep our CTC to the scope of our region and really hit on what is important in our area, but also keeping in mind that, you know, we're also going to, you know, hopefully support areas in the other parts of the states that are weak. Aviation's a great example. There aren't many airports in our area. However, we have individuals who will live here and drive to some of the cities, some of the other airports in support of them. But the building, you know, 70,000 square foot, when you look at other CTCs, would be considered small. But again, we're a small area. We have 4 districts that we would be, you know, sending students. And so, you know, we want to, again, try to keep it in perspective as we look at the building. The $10 million for land acquisition and site prep. So again, at the end of the day, we're looking at about $50 million for this CTC to become a reality for us. When you look at the goals, you know, certainly, and it was mentioned, the highly trained, skilled workforce is what we all want. We want that for our students. We want to look at, you know, adult learning, career education, support our high priority occupations, and we want to enhance student achievement in a fiscally responsible manner. And it goes back to what Dr. Hudak was mentioning before, of giving kids the exposure now to find out what they like and don't like before they take on a $100,000 loan. And those are the things that we have been trying to do, but we know we can do a better job with that if we had a CTC certainly present. And we want a place where every student can call their home. We want it to be the Wayne Pike CTC, that the 4 district, that the students go and they attend, and it would truly be, you know, their home. In closing, we're super excited to continue this journey. We believe we have a clear vision and direction that we're heading, but funding always seems to be the driving force and the reason why these discussions have broken down. So we would greatly appreciate it if you would be able to take our story to Harrisburg. It is a worthy story, we truly believe, and let everyone know that they can play a huge role in ensuring every student in Pennsylvania, not 65 counties, every student in Pennsylvania has access to a career and tech center. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. And I would like to note that Vice Chairman Torn Eckert is on with us as well. And I don't know if I think that's it. Also, Tony Sywell, who is supposed to be the force that's fired, couldn't make it this morning. He had a family emergency. So prayers for his family. Representative Adams.
Thanks, Keith. Thanks, Joanne. Thanks, Mary Beth. I have a 30-year relationship professionally with each of you, so I'm extremely happy for your testimony and your expertise. I have a statement and a question. Obviously, our schools, our economic partners, our workforce partners, and our employers along with Jim Simponi and the Zipper Junction project, have all proven that there is an intense desire and interest in career tech in our area and in vocational training. My question is, would a CTC vocational school, and I'm old school, so, and I think maybe some of the people watching, vocational training and CTC, to me are the same, but evidently, obviously, they're not. But will it be well attended by both students and adults from all 4 school districts? That's my question.
Yeah, so we've had those conversations about how many students are in programs right now, and we certainly recognize that it would be very well attended. When you're looking at some of our neighboring CTCs, Lackawanna, for example, they are busting at the seams. They're not taking any more students. And so with our enrollment being at 31%, we also know that providing additional opportunities will increase the participation in our CTE programs. We also believe that that would hold true in the other districts as well. From an adult education standpoint, we have been contacted by Johnson College, Northampton College, Lackawanna College, wanting to partner with us to ensure that when the CTC, when we take our next steps to build this, that it's also adult education friendly. A model that we would propose, a model that we really like, is something that they have in Susquehanna County where, depending on the time and the workability of adults, they're invited into school during the day to work with the CTE programs. And that is something that is specific to a CTC. We could not do that in a building, with 1,000 kids here, and cross-curricular as well. But really at an adult level, we believe that that there's significant interest, and it would be certainly well attended.
Thanks, Keith. And I do know that Tony Sywell would also have stated that the labor groups and labor unions and would certainly want to participate, including their apprentice program, along with that as well. So thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thank you, Representative Kale.
Representative Fritz.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and kudos to Representative Adams for bringing us together over this highly important topic. So I'm going to offer up a little bit of an observation. So, Mr. Gnuski, you referred to it as a journey, and it is exactly that. When we started this endeavor 2 decades ago, right, Mary Beth and Dr. Hudak, it has been exactly that. And there's always, along the way, there was some kind of hurdle that prevented us from finally getting there and realizing the vision that we all had. And really, we were just coalesced around a concept that we wanted to reverse the brain drain that our area experiences, and it's heartbreaking. As a parent, I have 3 youngsters that I want to see have opportunity and return home at some point. And for our superintendents that are in the room, and I see here in our document that we do have a signed memorialized statement from all of you, again sharing this vision and desire to see this come to be. So I represent Wayne and Susquehanna County. In Susquehanna County, we have the Susquehanna County Career and Tech Center, which really is just a wonderful example of a successful program. And we have youngsters there. They're coming out after 18 or 24 months worth of programming. I mean, they're 19, 20 years old, making $80,000 to $100,000 a year. The Susquehanna County, it's a rural economy, but the opportunity there is amazing. And we're talking about family-sustaining wages over there. We have the same potential in Wayne County. And none of us can argue the fact that there has been a very real paradigm shift when it comes to education. We realize over the course of the last 20 years, you no longer need a 4-year degree in order to make that family-sustaining wage. So you're right, it is a very serious impediment, and we're not realizing our potential without having a CTC. So, Keith, thank you for jumping on board with this endeavor, this journey, and hopefully we can get the stars to align. There's one additional star that has aligned this latest effort, and it is the federal stimulus dollars. There are $5 trillion worth of federal stimulus dollars, $2 trillion of which has not made its way into the system, that I think that there's going to be some funding opportunities that are there and can be realized to help this vision manifest. So I noticed in the sign statement from our superintendents that we're going to have a new name to the school and a new mascot. So if I look at the 4 schools, you guys know I can't help myself here. So we have the Warriors, we have the Wildcats, we have the Hornets, and we have the Buckhorns.
Yes.
So I'm just going to put a suggestion out there. Yes. The Wayne Pike CTC Pioneers.
There you go.
All right,
That's
I'm going on record with that.
Okay.
So I'm going to stand down, but I do have a question. You know, over the 20-year journey, I remember I interacted one time with a former administrator, and I'm not going to name who it was, and I was making the argument as to why we need a CTC. And the retort I got was, well, if there's not a program at this school district that they want to pursue, then they can just move to a different school district. And I'm thinking, wow. Seriously, that's going to be our answer? Mom and dad can just pick up and move, go buy a house in a neighboring school district, so you know, little Johnny or Jane can pursue a different program, and it's the fact that we have some fresh blood and some new concepts looking at this that realize that answer is not a true answer. It's not an option. But one thing that I want you to speak to, if you could, please, is when you encounter somebody that may be resistant to this concept, and they say, well, Fritzy or whoever, listen, they don't need a CTC program. If they want to pursue aviation or automotive or whatever, they can just go to Penn Tech or Johnson College. What is the response that you offer those people that would perhaps suggest that?
What?
You go first.
Okay, I'll go first. You know, I would certainly say that it's an investment, and you know, the fact is that the money that we put into a CTC is the benefits grow exponentially. So the fact is that a student that participates in an aviation program is going to be saved that money on the back end. Is going to be in the workforce much sooner. So I think that you know, that's kind of what I would mention.
I just want to comment that in my retirement, I'm an educational consultant. I work across the state with communities on career readiness, you know, bringing, again, education, business, economic development together. And so I happen to work in some very affluent communities who do not particularly embrace career and technical education. And so my answer, maybe a little more blunt, I like to look at the numbers and look at, you know, you might be sending 85% of your kids off to four-year college, but how many actually finish? So I generally like to hit them with some data. But I don't think there's anyone who doesn't want their child to succeed, right? And you know, we do have educators, unfortunately, who have never set foot in a career and technical center, have no idea about the power of career and technical education, and still believe it's a dumping ground for special needs students' behavior problems. That is shifting, but I have to tell you, we've done a good job here in our K-12 educators understand career and technical ed. Beginning way back in 2005, I was talking to everybody about the power of career and technical ed. So I think we just have to work together to change that mindset, but no family's got to move to have a high-quality program.
You know, another thing that I would just mention is, and the state has done a great job with this, is providing something called SOAR credits for our students in career and tech ed. So, you know, everyone may not be, you know, cut out for a four-year program, a post-secondary program. And so, you know, there are kids who are going to take 4 years of history, 4 years of science, but not, does every kid need to have that? Does every kid want that? Is that going to help every child for their career option that they have? So the great part about it is we have students who are leaving here with a semester worth of college credits under their belt, which is, again, less financial impact, you know, to the parents and those families that Joanne mentioned.
And I just want to jump in for a second here to Representative Fritz. I spoke about the two manufacturers within Wayne County, Sutphin Corporation and Boyce Products. Currently combined, they have over 11 jobs opened right now, looking for those specific skills I spoke about. But they independently mentioned the importance of educating the students locally. They wanted to highlight that students coming out of a CTC will understand that there are good career paths locally. Sutphin East is building fire trucks. If I was in automotive, wouldn't I? That is a fantastic plant, and I'd be down there working on those fire trucks. Boyce Products, as I said, they build the sets for CNN News. They do the presidential debate podiums and things like that. So it's fantastic integration of that technology. But educate your students locally because there are good career paths here, but also if we have to send someone away to get educated, you have that leakage out of your society. They may not come back. So they really both independently highlighted that need for local education.
Representative Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm from Delaware County, and first of all, I want to say, as I always do, Mr. Chairman, thank you for hosting this meeting. We get all over the state, and I travel quite a bit with you, and we're always finding new local subject matters that are so unbelievably interesting and I think astonishing, right? If I had not come up here, I wouldn't know this. Right? I would not know what a struggle it has been for you to get a CTC. And I'm going to tell you why I don't know that. And it relates a little bit back to my career path, and I'll get to my question at the end. And by the way, thank you for hosting us. You've been an absolute wonderful host in making us smart on this issue in a way that I think we can carry back to Harrisburg and be helpful to you and Representative Fritz. I'm a Marine Corps officer, spent most of my professional life in the Marine Corps. And the first thing you do after getting your commission is spend 6 months down in Quantico, Virginia, becoming an infantry platoon commander. No matter what your specialty is, your first skill as a Marine officer is being an infantry platoon commander. And the reason for that is that they want you to go off into your career field, understanding that the heart and soul of the Marine Corps is that rifleman. That is the heart and soul of the Marine Corps, and that everything you do in your other professional life in the Marine Corps is in support of that rifleman. And I raised that because I later went into energy and worked in an electric company where all of the four-year degree people were in one building, which was no part of the actual company. The actual company were the electricians on the poles and bucket trucks. And my first CEO, a man I dearly love and I'm still in touch with, whenever we would have company celebrations for, I don't know, Veterans Day or what have you, workers would come to the main office building, as we called it, in their, safety gear, in their orange T-shirts that said PICO proudly on it. And he says, "I'm so glad to see orange shirts here." He didn't want people to feel like they had to wear a coat and tie to come into the main office building with all of the four-year degree people. Because he said every single time, he's like, we're a working company. Just like the Marine Corps is all about that infantryman, that rifleman. And it drove that point home to me that even in the civilian sector, these working companies have to be about the workers. And it was astonishing to me that we had to turn people away from electrician school, from pole school, that we had to turn people away because we were so oversubscribed through IBEW and their training programs. As a consequence of kind of starting to put that picture together, I went to Delaware County CTC, which, interestingly enough for me, is in my district. And that's why I'm a bit astonished to hear some of these problems here, to be perfectly candid with you. It never would have occurred to me that you'd have to have a hard family conversation about where your kid's going to go to high school to get the technical education that he wants and desires to be fourth-generation firefighter. That's astounding to me, because our CTC in Delaware County, in my district, has a school bus coming from every single high school to that CTC. And I got to tell you, after a half-day tour there were a number of things that astonished me. One was how unbelievably good the education was. I mean, we had nursing programs there, home care providing programs there, culinary, electrician, welding. I mean, anything a young person's imagination could cover outside of pure academics was there, except aviation. I'm jealous of that. And I'm taking that idea home. And this is the part that warmed me a great deal. So much so that I, immediately after going to CTC, went back to Williamson Trade School in Delaware County and said, is this the way it is for all these kids? Because all those kids go for free. That's a private school. All of them are on scholarship, oversubscribed also. Every single kid there was happy. Every single kid there was happy. I don't know that I could go in any high school classroom and look around the room and see happy faces everywhere. They all wanted to be there. The Delaware County CTC has a waiting list. It's half a day. You go to your normal high school, either morning or PM, and the CTC in the other half a day. Every kid was happy. Every faculty member was happy. The administration was so proud to show off their program that I come up to Pike and Wayne County and I'm astonished you don't have one. I'm truly astonished. So I want you to know you've reached me, a guy in a county outside of Philadelphia, and you've reached me. So here's my question, and it shouldn't be a hard one. What do you need from us? If we're going to take a message back to Harrisburg on your behalf, what do you need from us?
Thank you for the question, Representative Williams. First, let me thank you for your service to our country. Very much appreciated. I think that probably the major roadblock that we've experienced over the years is that of funding. When you look at, and I'm sure you can speak to Delaware County CTC, how many school districts are tied to that one CTC? We have 4, which is not a lot. Typically, if you have 8 or 9, you can kind of share that financial burden and the expense of a CTC. And I think over the years and in the collaboration that we've had in prior discussions, it's that financial burden that in the past may have only been divided by, in some cases, 3, but now 4, is just something that is just truly difficult to overcome. So I know Representative Fritz had mentioned, even at the federal level, some funding that may be available. Whatever it is, we are eager to seek those funding opportunities.
Further to that, is it a one-time capital investment for the $50 million build, or are you looking for state help to sustain the program?
Well, we would always appreciate state help. However, it's that initial investment to get us off the ground. Once we are a working, functional CTC, we would have a joint operating committee agreement which would outline how that is going to be funded. And in most cases, it's funded by participation, student enrollment, things of that nature from each district. So that would be a self-sustaining organization at that point. So this is that one-time initial investment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Representative Rowe.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Representative Adams, for having us up here. I wanted to ask about we hear a lot about the brain drain, right? About how many young people end up leaving Pennsylvania for opportunities elsewhere. We lost 40,000 people in the last census cycle. We've lost a congressional seat every 10 years for the last 100 years. And I think that we're seeing this exception to that up here, where we are seeing population growth up here in this part of the state, certain aspects of it. But we talked about this last night at a roundtable that we had, some of the limitations to that, to really capitalizing on the population growth, to having places, affordable places for people to live and to work and to live here. My question is, Mr. Gronewski, you talked about the programs that you guys have kind of worked together regionally to put together. What don't you have in that capacity? Where do you limit it? And you alluded to some of those things, but the reason I'm asking is, what programs are young people forced to leave to go find? Is there something that you guys are not able to provide with your current consortium that if you had a actual existing, this facility you're proposing, what would you be able to do differently there? How many young people wouldn't have to leave the area? Because my concern is, once young people leave, they don't always come back. So if we're able to say, hey, this career pathway, you don't have to leave. You don't have to go to another part of the state. You don't have to go to North Carolina. You don't have to go to Florida. You can learn that right here. What are you guys missing currently that this new facility would enable you to utilize?
Yeah, that is certainly a great question. And the difficult part is that we have students, because they have to make the decision of staying and leaving, most stay, to be perfectly honest with you. This is really the first year, this school year, that we have students going to another school district. What we hear from our counselors quite frequently is that there's more of an interest in computer technology. Cosmetology is something that's huge, particularly in our area. None of our schools currently offer that. And so, those are 2 areas, but I had on the slide just a number of other, local occupations such as small engine, diesel would certainly be huge in this area. And this all comes to us with our business community partnerships that we have. We're very fortunate to have the business community partnerships that we have in our district and the other districts share with their community partners. And they're telling us, it's the hotel restaurant management area that we, again, are only able to provide culinary, but when you look at the various SIP codes that are aligned with that can branch off in other specialty areas. But because we're combined, we can only funnel students into the 8 programs that we currently have.
And you referenced the hospitality industry. I mean, you guys have an amazing and rapidly growing tourism industry up here. You have beautiful natural resources, the natural beauty, and then you also have fantastic new local businesses. We drove past the Wallenpaupack Brewing Company, and we stayed at the Settlers Inn last night. You have really wonderful, beautiful facilities up here. But I know that filling those occupations is sometimes a struggle, so where the opportunities for that industry to continue to grow could be limited. Do you foresee something like this, an expanded CTC, being able to really enable that thriving tourism industry to just continue to just explode from where it already is?
Absolutely, 100%. That is the goal. It's funny, I think I had mentioned it to a couple of the representatives. We start school here after Labor Day for a reason, because all of our kids are working. All of our high school kids are employed in that, through the Labor Day weekend. So, the fact is that the idea is so that the kids will receive the training, participate in mentorship programs while they're in high school, go out into the workforce, and then stay here. That's the idea. We don't want them to leave, but we also need a pathway for them to stay. And not having a CTC certainly limits us in that way.
I was going to add on, I mentioned it a little bit, and I think you were alluding to it, the social determinants of labor market participation. That's a term that we're looking at right now because we're talking about the CTC as critical education infrastructure, but we have something in Wayne County called Wayne Tomorrow that actually is an ecosystem approach and looking at full development, community and economic development. So we have, through this Wayne Tomorrow effort, which is now a decade old, every first Friday of the month, we've got some mix of about 50 organizations that meet, and we have task forces looking at housing. So we have recently had a housing assessment done to start to address part of that gap that we have in this area. We're aware of child care. We have a large Recovery to Work initiative underway, and our Workforce Alliance has a federal work grant and other grants that are looking at the recovery and reentry population. They're also looking at working with those who are incarcerated right now. They have a specific grant for that. One of the grants, and I know Dr. Hudak was just mentioning it to me, reminding me about it, was through the Workforce Alliance. They had a state grant that helped onboarding workers. So kind of like an internship program, sort of like the SLIP program that's no longer being offered through Labor and Industry. But the first 8 weeks of employment would be funded through this grant, the last 2 weeks by the employer. They had over 70 new jobs created in Wayne County alone, through Wayne and Pike County through that program. So it's very critical that we look at this piece of missing infrastructure that Keith has been talking about so much, but just understand that we've wrapped around a whole ecosystem approach to community and economic development in Wayne County. So we are looking at all of those areas that are not, individuals aren't participating in the labor force. There's the Recompete grant that's coming out at the federal level. The entire county has been designated distressed from the EDA because we have, I think, the 4th largest deficit within the Commonwealth in prime age workers not being engaged in the workforce. We cannot help but think that a CTC would help to address that problem, but we're going to dig deeply and apply for a grant to really understand what are the barriers from that prime age employment to working in Wayne County. Is it skills gaps? Is it, we know, for example, there are 3,000 disabled individuals in Wayne County. Is there a way to look at programmings that would be able to facilitate their reemployment within the county? So this is a very critical piece of infrastructure, but be assured that we're wrapping around a lot of other activities to look at all of those determinants of labor force participation.
Well, thank you guys very much for being so forward thinking on this subject, right? I mean, we're looking at some of the worst workforce shortages in a long time. We've got lots of manufacturers, even in my region, that are trying to import laborers from other parts of the state because they need the work. So thank you guys for being so forward thinking on this. We need the conversation on this to definitely continue. So thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Chairman Pickett.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's a pleasure to be here today, and we thank you all. This is partly comment, I think, on some of the things we've already talked about, and maybe a question also. First of all, I want to say, Rep. Fritz, you're probably pretty correct. One of the things on the top of the list may be mascots. Always a tough one, always. Also, I want to say that you have evidently done a marvelous job of putting something together without an actual location. I was really curious when I began to hear about this as to exactly how you're accomplishing all of this, because it has to be rather complex. And then I realized it's an all-day situation when the student makes that change. That obviously is not ideal, even though that says how much they want to get this training. But, gee, it is really not ideal to attract a student. 31% is a pretty great number under those circumstances, no question about it. So I say to you, stay the path. Your timing is probably excellent. A couple of us kind of talked about or alluded to the fact that we can remember when technical or training schools were not necessarily mindful of preparing people for job-ready, market-ready positions. They were simply filling a function of some sort that wasn't necessarily what it is today. So yeah, even though you've been struggling to try to make all this happen, you said your timing may be on right now, because you may be able to capture up all of the things that these schools have become to everyone, and they really are now taking on a great popularity and a great reasoning. People understand the value of this, not only your businesses, but your families do. So I spent nearly 30 years in the tourism business, owning restaurants and hotels, and as I had just a little bit of time to travel around here, I can see this area totally is involved with it. I know your influx is very large. And I have to say, management, courses for food service management of any sort, hospitality management of any sort, excellent professional food service students. I can tell you, if I had an opportunity, I'd hire them like that every single time at a great salary beyond what I could pay somebody else that I had to train over a longer period of time. So they're very valuable. Also, not every school district in every region understands the value of a Labor Day start, to the point where at one point the state thought about putting in statute, schools can't start until after Labor Day. It's so critical to your employers are very thankful to you, I can tell you that very much. And there are so many things that your schools can offer, your tech schools, in the way of a certification that makes that person job ready. I know that, and I'll tell you about a young man that was very interested in letting me know from the time he was in high school how his career was working. For some reason, he just always wanted to tell me. And he had taken on heavy equipment. When he got out of school, he went on to do all of the certifications he could get nationally for operating a crane. He was 21 years old when he approached me at a gathering someplace and said, "Guess what? I am making $100,000, I'm buying a house, and I can work any place in this country where they want me at any given time." Wow, that bespeaks what can happen when they get the passion for this and understand what it can mean to them in the end. So thank you for all you're doing. I think you just did talk a little bit about, you have some task force out there, but do you have a task force right now that's really coming together? I think your timing's right on. I think this is going to happen. I really do. Somehow it's going to come together. I just feel it. But do you have a task force ready that is forming with different parts of your community and your area? And what are those groups that are willing to work to try to plan and make this happen, and maybe be able to be available to us as further help in making this happen?
Well, when I was high school principal and working with some of the former superintendents, and we had a task force, and Representative Fritz at the time was the mayor of Honesdale, and he served on, you did, right? And we had the Wayne County Wayne Pike CTC task force. And under that task force, along with Workforce Wayne, with WEDCO, We conducted many studies, you know, the economic impact of the Career and Tech Center on the community. We looked at migration patterns. You know, we did how many years, Mary Beth? Probably six years or so of good research. We got to a point in 2008 where we were really about ready to say we're going to build this thing, and then obviously we had, you know, the economic crisis. We worked with, if any of you are familiar with the Lehigh Valley, we work with Dr. Clyde Hornberger. He from LCTI. It's one of the premier career and tech centers in our Commonwealth, and he had been our consultant and continues to be our consultant. So the history is we've had a strong task force, and that has really kind of morphed into our Wayne Tomorrow initiative, where we have the players at the table, and really recently under Keith's leadership with the other superintendent, they've really brought this back. But we've done tremendous amount of research to get us here today, through the task force.
Thank you. I appreciate that information. And I will also say, you're taking me back a little bit in my time, but I can remember it was most every month I noted that the person that took care of my HVAC or my refrigeration took home more money than I did every month. So that speaks also of what you can accomplish with young people.
Representative Rigby.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, panel. Keith, we were speaking earlier in the hallway, and I think it's amazing that the school has EMT, Firefighter 1, Firefighter 2. And we talk workforce development, but this is also something that gives back to the community. I think it's important to understand we have 2,500 fire companies across the Commonwealth, 90% of which are volunteer. And we're losing those numbers. As I shared with you, I joined in the 70s, so I've been at it a while. When I got into firefighting, there were 300,000 volunteers. We are now down less than 36,000 in this Commonwealth. So, you know, we see that need. But what was even more impressive with the conversation, and I'd like you to share with the panel, is how it has benefited your son, who is now going to go to Penn State. And by having that class as he's going forward, I believe it's some legislation we passed a year or two ago that's really going to benefit him. And if you could share that, I just think it's amazing. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, career and tech ed is interesting because you can look at career and tech ed as an end or a means to an end, meaning that you may take a program, say automotive, and you're going to be a mechanic, and that's what you're going to do. For others, it's a means to an end where you learn a skill or trade that gets you to another step or another goal. And so for my son, who is definitely interested in being a firefighter, as I mentioned, fourth generation, he's kind of up in the air on whether he wants to be a career firefighter or an educator. And so this past weekend, we went and toured Alpha Hose Company, which is across the street on College Avenue from Penn State University. And so with his Fire 1, Fire 2, and EMT, he will be able to participate in a live-in program, which will save him about $60,000 in college money for applying everything that he's learned along the way. And then again, in addition to that, the fact that wherever he lands, whether it's on the fire side or on the education, if it's the education side, I can guarantee you he will be a volunteer and he will contribute to the community. Hopefully it's a community nearby. I know mom and dad would like that. But wherever he ends up going, he will be a contributing member to that society, whether it's professionally or personally on the side.
And I thank you for that. And boy, I would love to see more schools offering this, because I think it's something that gives back and feeds back into the community, and we desperately need it. So thank you.
I would like to note that we have one more person that's going to ask questions before I maybe ask a question or make some final comments. We have a very active and engaged caucus, and when we have hearings, there's questions and stuff, but I think this is the first time where every single person up here is asking questions. And that just goes to show you how important this issue is, not just for this region, but across the state, and how focused we are on it as a caucus. I just wanted to note that. Representative Cabell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It also goes to show that if you give a politician a mic, they will take an opportunity to. Couldn't help myself. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, again. Thank you, Rep. Adams, for hosting us here today. It was really cool to see the student ambassadors just greet us at the door. It's been a fantastic experience so far. Ms. Hudak, you mentioned something that struck a chord with me. It was the College for All mindset. I had the opportunity a couple weeks ago. We had a policy hearing, and it was down at Penn Tech, and I had the opportunity to tour their welding center, and they are doing some things there. They're absolutely astonishing. I never could imagine some of the things, and they have the aerospace industry and others recruiting right out of there, and they offer certifications, 2-year, 4-year. I went home and talked to my son, who was 11, who is always said he wants to go to Penn State, and I said, Julian, I think you might want to look at a school like Penn Tech. You know, he has an engineering mind. I don't know where he got it from. Certainly not from me. But things like that are really unbelievable and eye-opening to me. I've never really been exposed to anything like that. But it made me think a little bit more about. I also saw a study recently that showed that the largest increase in real wages was for the demographic of non 4-year degree folks. And with the growth of AI and robotics, we all grew up thinking that AI and robotics and that kind of stuff would take over more of the blue collar type jobs. In reality, what we're seeing is AI is going to disrupt more of the white collar type industries, and the wages of our folks, going out and doing HVAC and plumbing, and as Rep. Pickett had mentioned, the people working on our HVAC systems a lot of times are making more money than us and really doing amazing things. So I bring that back full circle. I remember I graduated high school about 20 years ago, but I do remember, and I've been to a couple graduations in the meantime, and a lot of times you see the program and you see the person's name and where they're attending college. And it's as you mentioned, a rite of passage. And I think there's a lot of societal pressure on parents and students to that's really kind of the only path that's given to them. And I think that's unfortunate. My question for you all, and anybody could jump in and ask this, is how could we kind of change that narrative a little bit, get into the classrooms and explain to them, there's another path, and a lot of times it's way more lucrative. A lot of my friends went to Temple University, St. Joe's University, got generic business degrees, and are doing okay, but I think if they would have taken another path and learned a hard skill, they'd be doing much better. So my question I pose to you all is how could we kind of change the narrative and I think it has to start with parents, because they're the ones pressuring their children to a lot of times go to a 4-year school, even if they really have no clue what they're going to be doing there as an undecided major until they're a junior.
Yeah, well, first of all, you mentioned exposure, and I think that's key. First of all, and I speak to a lot of people across the state, and when I ask groups, auditorium filled with people, how many years in college, they do this. All right, so we really do have to change the language. We're looking at post-secondary training. If I could throw one word out, I would throw the word college out and just focus on post-secondary training. The problem is they don't know about this. So we, as educators, really have K-12 career education and work standards. In the state, Pennsylvania was the first state to include career readiness in its federal certifications, ESSA. And so we have a structure in our schools. And so we are doing better and better with getting our kids career readiness experiences, all those exposures. By, all 5th graders are required to go to a career and technical center. I've been to your career and technical center, wonderful place. But it should be more than just one visit. We really have to build in what I call impactful career readiness for our kids. And so in that middle, K-5 is our exposure, right? And in the middle school, we want kids to start creating a career plan and exploring what am I good at, what am I not good at, and getting opportunities to experience and interact with business and industry. And for example, I'm going to use our chef, who you're going to meet in a little bit. Our chef went down to the 5th grade classrooms a couple of years ago, and they made mayonnaise, right? Kids had a blast. But she then said, listen, I'm going to run a Saturday program for 5th graders. She probably still does that, but 5th graders. Drop your kids off right, with me for the day on Saturday, parents, and I'm going to teach them how to cook a Mexican dinner, right? And the parents showed up, the kids were on fire, right? On fire, they were so excited. Parents got a meal, parents got to meet the chef, parents got to hear from their kids and the chef about the opportunities in the career. And her program has exploded just by that exposure. I don't think we do, again, I talk about the work-based learning, particularly with our, quote, academic track kids. They're so focused on getting their AP classes, their SATs, all this, they're not getting exposed to career readiness opportunities. And so it's really on us as the K-12 educators to make that happen. But I also wanted to talk about with our parent group. Our parents we all want the best for our kids, but we don't, we may not know where the jobs are. So again, I remember I opened up with, how are we as educators supposed to inform everyone about the world of work when perhaps we don't know everything. So these relationships are critical to giving us those tools. But we've got to build the structures and the systems to get kids out there. So Penn Tech is amazing, affiliated with Penn State University. If you ask most kids what they know in healthcare, they're going to say doctor, nurse, physical therapist. They don't know. So this is where career and technical ed, along with career readiness, can really expose kids to the myriad of opportunities. And, when we think that, again, there's a stigma that career and tech kids do not go to college. Go to Penn Tech, right? Johnson College, those colleges are booming. And you can get a 4-year degree, but it's exposure. So I think, Representative Williams, you talked about happy kids. Our career and tech kids are very engaged, and they're interacting with business and industry partners. They're having opportunities and capstone experiences. And I'll use my husband has an engineering firm, and he got and his colleagues got asked to join the OAC, which is the Occupational Advisory Committee for our engineering program here. And started to come in and talk to kids that had the engineering fair. And so I said to my husband, will you take some kids, job shadowing? Of course I did, and he began to take kids to job shadow into his engineering company, maybe 14, 15 employees. And he then, from those kids interacting with the engineers and the technicians, he hired those kids in the summer. $10 they were holding a survey and pole out in the field, right? But they were working for Kiley Associates. He now has employed, I think it's 6 Wallenpaupack grads just through that pipeline because they made a connection with an employer, they got an opportunity. So we've got to do exposure. So I'd like to just tell you about something that I think is truly unique to our county. It's something called the SHINE program. And the SHINE program is a STEAM, right? Science, technology, engineering, art, mathematics, is a STEAM-based program. It is research-based, and it is designed to engage children and families in really learning about the world of technical education and so much more. This was the first SHINE program was in Carbon County and in the Jim Thorpe area, and they have 16 years of data showing how this elementary after-school program has impacted those at-risk kids and their families, and has really, those kids have graduated successfully, with a career focus. We brought the Wayne Pike Workforce Alliance. We are so thrilled and proud that we were able to write a 21st century grant, and we brought the SHINE program to Pike and Wayne counties. Currently, we have a SHINE after-school STEAM program in all of our after-school, in all of our districts, in our W's, we call them, right? Our Western Wayne Highlands and Wallenpaupack. This year, we started the middle school program, right? This is a life-changing program. If you are not familiar with SHINE, it is a life-changing program for families because not only are the kids getting exposed to high-quality STEAM education, it's really wonderful, but the families are interacting with the workforce folks. and getting an opportunity up, maybe they can attend a session, upgrade their resumes, so on and so forth. So again, long-winded answer, but a lot of exposure, but we've got to get the high-quality work-based learning experiences in our schools. And we also need to understand that parents want the best for the kids, but we need to engage them early in the conversations about career readiness. One fact I didn't mention was the number of disconnected kids in our communities. In Pennsylvania, about 12% of the 16 to 25-year-olds are disconnected, right? And so that's about 170,000 kids, young people in Pennsylvania. And these are kids that are not working, not looking for work, not in school and not looking to go to school. In our counties, it's around 11% also. It used to be worse, but it's gotten much better. These disconnected kids are kids who are turned off in school, disengaged, dropped out, many of them, and if they did graduate, they're doing nothing. So this program that we have are targeting kids that potentially had kind of factors to be at risk. So I think I know there's a SHINE program in Luzerne County and then out in the Carbon County area, but I think it's one of the things, another way for us to start that structure early on to work with families and kids.
Thank you. That was a great answer, and I echo Rep. Williams' comment. Whatever we could do to help you all, you've sold me here. We need to make sure. I know Rep. Adams has been in my ear, and Rep. Fritz as well. So we definitely need to do everything we can to make this happen for you guys. So thank you for having us here today.
I'd just like to say thank you to all the testifiers for being here today, for giving the testimony, for sharing with us your needs and your perspective, because that's what we need to take back to Harrisburg to be effective for you and for others across this Commonwealth. So thank you very much. Without further ado, I'd like to hand it over to Representative Adams.
Thank you, Chairman Kale. This was a great hearing. I really appreciate the opportunity. And I do want to thank all the testifiers for your testimony. Also want to thank all of the representatives for participating. As Josh just said, I've never seen everybody be so interested in going on a half hour longer than what we usually do. And a special thank you to Chairman Kale and the entire policy team for the honor, and it is a big honor, to have you here to have this hearing in Wayne and Pike County. And it's just much appreciated and a job well done by all. So thank you.
All right. Well, before I close, I do want to mention one thing about Representative Adams and really all of the representatives from northeastern Pennsylvania. These guys get so excited about their areas. I remember a couple years ago when Representative Fritz took me through Honesdale and we drove around there in Susquehanna, and Representative Adams. I have 8 children, and when we go on vacation, one of my children is in charge of picking where we're going to stay. Now it's managed, obviously, but he's the one that's responsible. And when he picks a good hotel, he runs in first and sees it and checks it out. And he's so excited. His eyes are lit up. He's showing everyone every nook and cranny within the rooms, whether it's a hotel or Airbnb or however it is. That was Representative Adams last night. I mean, he was showing us every corner of his district, showing us different places, and it was phenomenal. Areas that I didn't know were here in this Commonwealth. And it is just a pleasure to serve with other members that truly care for their districts. And Chairman Pfeiffer was phenomenal too, and we do miss Chairman Pfeiffer. I'm not going to say we don't. But Representative Adams and his zeal for his district and wanting to make it a better place for everybody is an inspiration, and thank you for bringing us here. So the next hearing, the Policy Committee will be in Harrisburg, and it will be on the cost of higher education, and it will be held Wednesday, September 27th, in the Republican Caucus Room in Harrisburg to discuss the rising costs of higher education and ways to move forward without saddling students and families with lifelong debt. Until then, this hearing is adjourned.